Oh gosh, that is a monster tornado.
I got a car around.
It has been a punishing series of storms that have been moving through here, and as we said before, some of the strongest people in this country have been asked to bear a little more as it continues to pour. The wind continues, and if you can see all around David, Muir, and me here, it's 360-degree apocalyptic destruction. 25% of this town, and possibly even more, has been destroyed, and today you charted the path of the tornado right through the center of Joplin.
We revisited this route, Diane, and as you know, in these frantic hours afterwards, rescuers were calling from the scene, calling dispatchers and saying to themselves on the line, I think we're standing in what used to be the Home Depot, what used to be the high school, and take a look at the route.
And it's a massive tornado, massive destruction.
Those tornado sirens went off, just 20 minutes of warning. But the winds so deafening, many here said they couldn't hear the alarms. And then it hit. From the air today, you could see it. And from the ground, as we retraced the twister's deadly route, we saw it with our own eyes.
You can see that this entire neighborhood is completely flattened. It's eerily quiet.
Homes damaged or destroyed. Janice Stevens' home, one of them. She took us to the bathroom where she was huddled and praying. On the other side of the wall, another townhouse, her neighbor. The two women would knock on the wall, a signal that they were both still alive.
Were you pounding on the wall?
Yes, yeah. And she was pounding back, so I knew somebody was there.
So you were saying prayers on both sides of the wall. We're glad you're okay.
Oh, thank you.
So many of her neighbors did not make it. She took us upstairs, showing us the view from her bedroom.
You can see the roof completely gone from the top of the house, and the bedrooms have no walls anymore.
The powerful EF4 twister had 200-mile-per-hour winds. In all, it left a 6-mile path of destruction, at times a full mile wide. The massive twister touching down at 5:40 local time, where it sheared off the roof of that hospital, St. John's, sucking the windows right out of the patients' rooms. The hospital paralyzed. As it continued through Joplin, subdivisions gone. Streets now lined with foundations where homes once stood. Next to Joplin High School, the roof peeled off. And then the Walmart, now a pile of debris, where a giant store stood just yesterday, shoppers inside.
Entire neighborhoods here have been wiped off the map. You can see all that's left of these homes as far as you can see that way, and really as far as you can see this way as well. And this truck here that we just walked past, we couldn't help but to notice the bell is still ringing inside.
This family huddled in front of their home, now gone. They all survived in the bathroom. They saved a 3-year-old girl across the street as her mother screamed from the second floor.
We had the little girl.
We had her grandma came.
And we got her, but her parents are both gone.
She lost both of her parents.
Both of her parents.
Well, David, unbelievable stories you found all along the way. We should say there's sirens here because they're still attempting rescues not far from us. But you went to the high school as well.
We did. We heard so much about the high school. The roof ripped off the top. And as you know, graduation day was yesterday here in Joplin, but they held graduation off campus. Everyone talking about what a blessing that was.
And a little bit later, we're going to tell everyone some of what was said at the graduation, which still gives the people hope here today. And I want to give you a sense of how far this tornado carried what was in St. John's Hospital. You talked about the windows being blown out there. Let me just read it to you. And our team is spread across the disaster zone. But let's begin right now, right here in Joplin, with the missing and David Muir, who heard some pretty stunning stories of survival today. David.
Diane, you and I have heard these stories of survival in every neighborhood we have visited, right down to the 9-year-old boy who knew enough to put on his bike helmet before he dove into the bathtub. But tonight, we are also hearing the stories of the missing.
As the storm clouds hover over this battered city, a painful realization. Likely far more missing than anyone knows. Still, no official number. And tonight, rescue teams are back, canvassing neighborhoods.
On every street now, you see teams like the one here behind me doing what's called a secondary search. These are firefighters from St. Louis going home to home to make sure that there's nobody left inside, actually marking the homes with X's, a sign that they didn't find anyone.
There's still a lot of people unaccounted for. So.
Do we have any idea how many people are still missing?
He simply shakes his head. Even the mayor here acknowledges he has no idea. And there was a different sign spray painted on this pickup truck, a phone number, a family looking for a 12-year-old boy, his parents in the hospital. He is still missing. As we drove through Joplin,
150 pounds.
Descriptions of the missing on the radio.
Wow.
And then there are the survivors. Today we brought Natalie Gonzalez back to her home for the first time. She, her boyfriend, and her 9-year-old son survived here.
So you were all huddled right here in the tub?
Yes.
Acting on instinct, her 9-year-old boy put on his bicycle helmet. The toilet flew and hit him in the head, but he had that helmet on until the twister tore it off.
So he still had the strap, but the helmet had been sucked away.
Ripped off.
And then we found it.
That's it.
Is there any question in your mind that the helmet saved your son?
I know the helmet saved my son.
For Natalie and her boy, it was the bathtub and the helmet that saved him. And for so many of the families here, it was that basic instinct, that survival mode about where to go in the house to survive this. In fact, take a look, a sort of 360-degree view here of the neighborhood. You can see every home flattened, every tree severed, and really all the way back in this direction over the bathtub. It's extraordinary when you think about how many people did survive.
I believe I was probably right here. Right in that area.
And you had to crawl out.
Yeah, I crawled out.
At 6'6", Steve raced to his tiny closet in the center of his home, no windows, like so many others who race to a closet or a bathroom. And it turns out it was that same instinct that helped save those terrified people at that convenience store. We now know about 20 people hid inside a walk-in freezer, its walls nearly 10 inches wide, protecting them even as that twister shook the store.
Cannot imagine how that little boy knew how to put on a helmet to think that fast, and in the bathtub too.
It was so many warnings in the last several weeks about tornadoes. He'd been watching television with his mother, and he'd heard on TV that children might want to put on bike helmets. So when the sirens went off, he raced to the helmet before the bathtub.
Watching TV?
Yeah, really something.
All right, thank you, David. It was heart-pounding to think about that. But as we said, despite the sunshine, you Joplin, Missouri are watching the skies again tonight, wondering whether a new tornado is still hurtling toward them. The lives lost continue to climb. The number of lives twisters have taken this year so far now more than 500, and that is the highest ever this early in a year, a new record. David Muir spent the day in Joplin where a stranger saved a baby, he tells us, a symbol of what the people there are made of. David.
This was one extraordinary reunion we witnessed today, Diane. I know you're just back in New York, having left Joplin. You know this landscape so well. The splintered trees, all of those destroyed homes here behind us, and in so many of those homes tonight, families still searching for loved ones.
Tonight, an emotional storm is building in Joplin. Families desperate for answers from forensics teams about their loved ones, filling this guarded room. Jennifer Perez brought a photo of her father. We went to the Red Cross to see if they had a list, and inside on the wall, pages and pages of names. This time, though, a welcome sight.
So these are all people who have been found.
These are all people that have been found.
So many families have come here looking for these lists and looking to help.
And they're chipping in and they're helping one another. It's just absolutely amazing. I'm so sorry.
This is life in Joplin now.
He's been missing.
Layla, just 15, still waiting to hear from a friend.
He's still missing, and it's just a really sad situation.
And today, from the twisted metal that was once Walmart, an extraordinary tale. Jamie Chalago and her 3-month-old son Grayson were inside. When it hit, Mom was pinned on the floor, so was Grandma. And as the walls caved in, the baby was separated from them, sitting on the floor in his baby carrier by himself.
And I just remember screaming, where's my son? And that's when Tommy, he just kept saying, I've got him. I'm not going to let anything happen to him.
A man, a perfect stranger, had suddenly appeared, huddling over the baby, protecting him, calming him.
He was actually feeding him a bottle, trying to keep him quiet while the whole thing was going on.
In the middle of the twister?
In the middle of the tornado, yes.
That's a babysitter.
Yes, he's hired.
And today, a reunion. Grayson in the arms of the man who saved him. And Grandma is grateful.
I said, you're our angel sent from God.
You believe that?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Grayson will hear quite a story when he gets older. And Diane, that was not the only reunion we heard about today. That young woman you saw at the beginning of the report with the tears looking for her father, I talked to her on the phone just a short time ago. She said she found him today, alive and well.
That is wonderful news, too. Thank you, David.
Tonight on World News, a stunning new look. The chilling moments right after that twister.
Sarah, Mike!
The frantic search for family members and how this family story ended. Heartbreak and then hope.
This is ABC World News with Diane Sawyer. Reporting tonight, David Muir.
Good evening. It is a heart-stopping new window into the moments right after that twister hit Joplin, Missouri. Tonight, a raw look at one family's desperate search, walking down streets they didn't even recognize, the fires there that broke out, shouting the names of their loved ones. And at first, what seemed like terrible heartbreak would soon turn to hope.
Aaron, look at this. Oh my gosh.
We went right through here.
I don't know where.
I don't know where we are.
That's Aaron Cox's voice and his fiancée ahead of him. He didn't even recognize the neighborhood. They'd come from across town to find his sister.
We got to keep going this way. Don't step on any of this.
In the front yard to the right there, a stunned mother and child.
Oh no, it's the hospital. It's St. John's, Aaron.
That hospital that was decimated, smoke rising in the distance.
Sarah! Sarah, Mike!
They get to the house, frantic to find his sister and her boyfriend.
Sarah, Mike!
Sarah, Mike!
All right, I'm going to go check the basement.
Sarah, Mike! Sis!
Kirby?
Sarah!
Mike?
Incredible to watch. They did not find them there at that home, but as they traveled across town, suddenly a call on the cell phone. It was his sister and her boyfriend. They had gotten out of that house and were waiting at a relative's home. A happy ending in a town with so much devastation. And tonight, there are more than 150 still missing, the death toll rising again today. But even in the sadness, there is still hope emerging. And
we turn now to an American town with the heart of a champion. Someone said that courage doesn't always roar. Sometimes it's just a quiet voice saying, I will try again tomorrow. And in Joplin, Missouri tonight, that is the kind of courage and generosity on display. It has been 87 days since ABC News first walked amid the tornado wreckage, and the town of 50,000 people turned into a kind of moonscape. Well, tonight, weekend anchor David Muir is there to show us how all of you helped bring Joplin back to life. David.
Diane, good evening from Joplin, and this is the view nearly 3 months later. You remember the destroyed homes, the splintered trees, but this is the landscape now. So much of that debris taken away, entire neighborhoods erased, but not the hope here. This was the first day of school in Joplin. Our journey through Joplin 3 months later. The families here will tell you it's hard even for them to find streets, to find entire neighborhoods. Crumbled foundations now serve as landmarks here. After that massive and slow-moving tornado, a path 13 miles long, nearly a mile wide. Desperate for a clean start here, today they got one. Hugs on the first day of school. An old strip mall, now their new high school. And hidden in a back room, the superintendent shows us what was waiting for every student.
Every one of these backpacks has a laptop.
Correct.
For every student coming back to school.
Every student.
And then the moment. Those deserving students getting their donated bags and logging on to their brand new laptops. The generosity, big and small here. Those notes, pinned hand-sewn outfits sent here for the little ones, from Oklahoma to Texas to New York.
To a special girl, I hope you enjoy wearing this outfit as much as I enjoyed making it.
This teacher's heart overflowing.
Oh, overwhelming. Oh my gosh, yeah. And, it just keeps coming. Amazing.
And ever since our first reports here when that tornado hit, we haven't been able to shake the story of that little boy on Roland Avenue. We went back to that home.
This was where the tub was, right here.
His mother told us back then of her 9-year-old boy knowing to put his bike helmet on before jumping into the tub. The tornado ripped the toilet from the floor, hitting the boy in the head. But he had that helmet on, and we found it.
Is there any question in your mind that the helmet saved your son?
I know the helmet saved my son.
Is this Augie?
3 months later, we finally meet Augie, that boy with the helmet, now headed to 4th grade.
And you had that helmet on?
I couldn't believe that was on my head.
You couldn't believe it, right? I couldn't believe it. The 4th grade, right?
Into his school and to the class lists on the wall, we find Augie's name. And inside his new classroom, he suddenly spots someone, his best friend, at the door. He hadn't seen him since the tornado.
An extraordinary feat to get all those children back to school today. Authorities here told me this day was on the calendar long before that tornado hit. And Diane, they were determined to keep it that way, to give these children something to look forward to. Diane?
Oh, David, thank you. So good to see those smiles.